Hi everyone. Hopefully we can get this video done on the third try. So if uh, if you completed lesson 2, you should have a completed SES box trailer with all the bumpers, doors, front wall, everything on it. So in this lesson, we're going to create a chrome body for this box trailer, and we're going to do it using the reefer body because I'm going to show you a few things with your normal maps and some textures, and we'll look at a little bit of UV editing and so forth. So right now, let's uh, let's just hide everything. So we hit Control and click, and we'll hide, and then we'll just look at everything that belongs to the reefer. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to highlight that, and then I'm just going to hide everything that we won't be working on. All right, we're almost there. Okay, so now we just have the reefer box, and this is what we're going to make the chrome box out of. And what I want you to look at as far as these textures, you can see all these rivets and these ridges that run horizontal down the trailer. This is created with what's called a normal map. Some people refer to it as a bump map, but it's an illusion. Uh, these textures aren't really there, so if we turn off the textures, uh, you hit Z and then option 6 and turn it solid, you can look and see that there is absolutely no geometry in these box sides at all. So there's no ridges, there's no rivets. It's all done using the bump map. So we'll turn textures back on, and we're going to make the chrome box out of this reefer box. So what we need to do first is we need to duplicate it. So we'll highlight it, and to duplicate it you hit Shift D and then enter, and you'll notice you created a duplicate piece. So we'll hide one, and then we need to assign this new box to a new part category. And for this, you go to your square orange box and you hit this plus, and then it's going to come up with a default part, and you just double click on it to rename it. And I'm just going to name this Chrome. Well, actually, we'll name it CHR, and then we'll just add box to it. So Chrome box. So the next thing you need to do is you need to determine your texture files that are associated with this box trailer. So we scroll down until we see, I don't know, it looks like a little red earth to me, but that is your materials properties. You click on it and you scroll down to where you see your base texture, and if you put your mouse over the path, you can see it says reefer underscore pup TOBJ, so that is our base. And then for our end map or normal map, we can see that it's reefer underscore pup underscore in. So those are our textures. So to make this chrome, I'm just going to delete this material right here by just clicking this minus button. And now we have deleted all the materials for this part. Now we need to create a new material. So you hit new, and then a new material comes up, and then you want to rename it something that you can recognize. So in this case, I'm going to just name it CHR. Well, actually, start it with MAT, and then CHR, and then box. Material Chrome box. And then you scroll down, now you have to assign a shader to it. So the shader has to come from SES, and they have shader presets, and there's quite a few of them. If you want to scroll down, there's quite a few shaders. But the shader that we want is called diff spec weight add ambience. All right, so, and then there's another way you can get to it too. You can just click here, and then this brings up all your, which is how I normally do it anyway. Just click on your shader tab, and then you want to hit this. Uh, Actually, it's this one I want: diff spec add ambience non-Fresnel. So that's the shader that I want. And if you want to use the same end map or same bump map as the original reefer trailer, you can do that. But you have to change your base. You can't use the base because we want a chrome base here. So if we're going to use the end map, you select this end map on its own UV. So I'll click that, and then it has a new texture box for it, and you have to have the mappings. So for usually the base map is on texture 0, or is UV map 0, and then on the end map is normally UV2, and UV1 is normally used for skinning. So to select the Chrome, you just click on this folder, and then this is inside your base folder, and you want to go to that share folder. So you go to vehicle, and here's that share, and this is where a lot of your textures will come from. So you open a share, and then inside the textures, you're going to look for a folder called metal. So open metal, and there's several different types of chrome that you can pick from. You got just a regular chrome TOBJ, you have a chrome base, a chrome dark, a chrome paint, chrome plain, and a chrome spec. Uh, I like the chrome plain better. It's a lot brighter than the other ones, and it doesn't have a lot of the scuffs and I guess stains that these other ones have. So if we select the chrome TOBJ, all right, and you can see that it is chrome, but you have a lot of staining in your chrome, a lot of uh, I guess scratches and ghosting, and you can fix that. It's kind of, if you can see, it's in like sections, but you can fix that in your UV mapping. But I just don't like the overall shade of this one particular chrome. So if you, and each one has its own unique look to it. So this chrome base looks a little bit different. It doesn't quite have the scratches on it, but it still has the staining to it. And then you have chrome dark, which is like your black chrome. And let's see, your chrome paint, which I think is a new shader, so that you can actually paint the chrome. But I've been told it doesn't work too well from a lot of people. I've never tried it myself, but a lot of people say it looks like that your skin is inside the chrome instead of on top of it, which doesn't look very well. And then you have the chrome plain, which is the one that let's see, I think it's the chrome plain. It still has a dark look to it. So let's see. There we go. That looks a little bit better. So you can adjust how the chrome looks by using these tabs. So you got diffuse, specular, shininess. I'll go to 250 on shininess. Let's see, this add ambient. I think for chrome, I like to use minus 0.5. But you can change it to your own liking, and then we'll sync to reflection. And now we have to select our end map. So we click on the folder, and remember our end map is kept in our trailer owned, and we go to SES box, and if you remember it, I think it was reefer pup, so REF, and so this is the way I search for materials a lot quicker. Just type in a few letters of what you're looking for, and then it brings up the your textures. So here's the reefer underscore pup underscore n. So that's the texture file that we want for our normal map. And then you can tell that this doesn't look right at all. Uh, so what has happened here is, you have a bunch of UV maps. So you have to select a UV map that uh, corresponds to this texture. So if we select 0 or UV map 0, and we'll just select UV map 1 for a base. All right, so now you have your ridges, your horizontal ridges, and your rivets in your box. But that's not fun. So what we're going to do, we're going to do away with this end map and just go back to our Chrome box, and we're going to create the ribs and the rivets using modifiers. So I can't really find a good picture of a chrome reefer body, but I've seen some in games, so I'm going to try to just do what looks good to me. So when you're making your own reefer body, you can create as many horizontal ridges and rivets as you like. The process will still be the same. But the first thing you have to do, you have to think of a mesh that looks close to what you're wanting to create. So if you looked at the ridges, to me they look like a cylinder, elongated cylinder that goes down the whole side of the trailer, and it's like half of it's cut off. So that's what I'm going to start with. So in order to create a new mesh, you go Shift A, and you go up here to Mesh, and here's a cylinder. So this is a cylinder mesh. All right, so when you bring your cylinder up, before you do anything else, take these vertices down to the minimum vertices you need in order to uh, create your part. So I usually like to start with about, let's see, all right, let's start with 8 because I'm going to have to cut this in half. So I'm going to start with 8 so it'll cut right on the half point. All right, so I'm done creating my cylinder. And now before you do anything else with your cylinder, we want to put a modifier in. So in order to do a modifier, go into edit mode by hitting tab. And you can tell you're in edit mode if you look in the top left hand corner of your screen. It'll tell you you're in edit. If you hit tab again, it goes to object. Tab again, it goes to edit. All right, so we are in edit mode. And then if you come over here to this panel, you can see this like a blue wrench. if you click on the wrench, these are your modifiers. So we're going to add a modifier uh, to this cylinder. So the modifier that we're looking for, we're looking for the mirror modifier. So I click on the mirror, and what that mirror modifier does, it creates an exact duplicate of the model, either on your x-axis, your y-axis, your z-axis, or on all three. So if we grab this by hitting G and we move it along the x-axis, you can see you now have two cylinders and are identical to each other. So whatever we do to our active cylinder will be reflected in this other cylinder. So we have two cylinders and they're exactly opposite of each other. So always make sure that when you mirror, you're right on that world origin, right in the center. And hopefully your model is right in the center too. All right, I thought we took that end map out. Let's take that end map out. There we go. All right, so our end map's out, and so now we got these cylinders, and I want to rotate them so they go horizontal along the edge of this trailer. So I'll highlight it, and I'll hit rotate. We want to rotate along the x-axis, and we want to rotate it 90 degrees. All right, so we're rotated 90 degrees. And next thing we want to do, we want to cut them in half. So in order to cut them in half, you got to be in edit mode. And we are in edit mode. And then make sure your X-ray tab is on right up here. If you don't turn your, I'll show you what happens. If you don't turn your X-ray tab on, and you put this on vertices, and let's say that I want to get rid of these three vertices, you notice you select the ones in the front, but you do not select the ones in the back. So if we delete these by hitting X, deleting vertices, see how it messes up our geometry? All right, so you want to make sure that anytime that you're working in edit mode, except when you're working with faces, make sure that your X-ray is on. So we'll undo that. We'll turn X-ray on. And now when we select these three vertices, we select through the mesh. So we got the three in the back and we got the three in the front. So now if we hit X and delete vertices, see now we have just deleted half, which is what we were wanting. Now you can already tell that this is way too big for the side of our trailer, so we're going to have to make this a lot smaller. So what you want to do, you want to scale it down. So to scale, you hit S, and then you want to scale it down to where it's the same size as your ridge. And then we'll hit G, and we'll kind of move it onto our trailer. And you can tell it's still fairly big, so we're going to scale it some more. We kind of look at it. Yep, I think that's close. So we'll hit G and we'll kind of move it to the right place on our x-axis, but if you'll notice, we're way off on the y-axis, so we're way off the side of the trailer. So what you want to do, you want to grab it and move it along the x-axis until it meets the box. I'm not sure what happened that last time. Scale some more. Like I said, we're just kind of eyeballing because we don't have any blueprints or nothing to go on, so we're just kind of eyeballing. GY. All right, good. We got them on both sides. All right, and then next we want to GZ, move it up a little bit, highlight that. Then GY. Okay. And then let's add the array modifier. And let's see if it takes it this time. I am not sure what's going on with this at all. I do have two of them. All right, there we go. Now the axes are messed up somehow. So anyway, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get the spacing. What I think. All right, so that if that spacing looks about right, and I don't know how I got my axes mixed up, but somehow or another I did. But anyway, that's minus 2.6. So in the down direction, you got to put a minus in. And then once you think you got your spacing right, you can go to this count, and you just increase the count, and then automatically space all your ridges in. And it does it on, because you got the mirror modifier on, you've got them on both sides of the trailer. So now we just want to grab it and make sure that we're centered. So we hit G. And remember, if you want to slow things down, you just hit the shift as you're moving, and it'll slow everything down. So you try to get it as near to the center of your trailer as you can. All right, so we have our horizontal ridges. We have them on both sides of the trailer. We still need to apply the materials to it. So we're just going to apply the same materials that's applied to our box sides. So we select it, and if we're good with it, you have to apply these modifiers. So to apply them, make sure that you're not in edit mode. Make sure you're in object mode, and you just click on this down and just hit apply. Okay, so now you applied the array modifier. Now we need to apply the mirror modifier. So we hit down and we apply. So now these are all meshes. Now these are each individual meshes. They're no longer made by the modifier. So you can see now that it's individual meshes. So what we need to do, we need to apply the materials to it. So we go down to our materials tab, and remember we made that new material for the chrome body. So I hit the down arrow, and you can search for it. So if you hit matte, and there it is, matte body chrome, and we click on that, and we apply that chrome materials to these ridges. But you notice that they look kind of dark and not really like chrome. That's because sometimes when you apply the materials, not everything gets checked. So if you see it looks dark, then you probably don't have your colors selected. So if you see this where it says add vertex colors to active, uh, or if you go to this green triangle and you click on it and you go to vertex colors, notice there's no box here. So the easiest way to do it is go back to your material, and you want to just hit add vertex colors to active. So when you click on it, now it looks like chrome, and if you go to this green triangle, now you have your vertex colors active. You got a color and then a color alpha. But make sure that you check everything on your materials. See, we're missing UV layer 0 from this base. And when you click on it, all it has is UV map, so it doesn't have a UV 0. So once again, you go back to your green triangle, and where it says UV maps, you see this UV map, and you just want to change the name of it. And you change it to UV underscore 0. And now when you go down here, it automatically, when it finds it, it automatically selects it. So now we have our horizontal ridges on our box. And now we need to put the rivets on here. So we try to think of what exactly does a rivet look like, or what resembles a rivet. And to me, it's a sphere, a ball. So I'll hit Shift A, and I'll go up to Mesh, and it's not a circle, it's a sphere. Make sure you select sphere. And here we have our ball, and then we'll just cut down the vertices till it makes it a little bit more manageable. Let's try 16. Okay, and now we want to apply the mirror modifier because we want to do both sides of our trailer at the same time. But let's go ahead. I'm going to try something different this time. Let's resize it first. So I'll just size it down. And in order to make it look like a rivet, we're going to have to cut half of it off again. So we go into tab. Make sure that you're in x-ray mode. And then just highlight half your ball. And it might take you a few times to get it quite right. All right, so now we have a half a ball. And there's a, let me hide this box real quick. And Let's hide the cylinders. That way I like to look at the ball from the top because I can see some little stragglers right here. All right, so I want to get rid of those. All right, so now we have half. All right, it still doesn't quite look like a rivet because rivets aren't usually have such a round head on it. So I want to flatten it up some. So if I select all the vertices and I just want to flatten it along the x-axis, so I hit scale and then X, and then I can just flatten it along the x-axis until it looks like a flat rivet. All right, and then once I do that, let me turn my box sides back on. Can't remember. I can't remember which one it was. I should have paid attention. All right, so I'll just go back and I remember I made a part thing for uh, all right, so I'm going to have to select a part. Let's see. Hold on a second. Whoops. I got to select a part within the truck or within the trailer. There we go. All right, so I made a chrome box. So I just click on. I must didn't assign that box to the part. All right, so that's probably still under reefer. Yep, it's under reefer. So what I need to do, I need to find which one's the reefer. All right, so it's that part there. Then select Chrome box and hit assign. All right, so now the Chrome box should be assigned to the Chrome box part. So when I click on it, it disappears. All right, so now I can go back here and hide everything. And then now if I click on the Chrome box, now I have my Chrome box back. And now I have my ridges. And now I have my rivet. So I click on the rivet and I kind of put it up close to where I want it to go. And you can tell it's still really, really big. So we'll scale it. And we'll scale it some more until we get the rivet down to the right size. And then let's add a modifier to it. So to add the mirror modifier, and we want to modify, or we want to make it mirrored in the X direction. So we hit G, X, and we'll scan in. All right. So now our rivet is on the sidewall of our trailer, and we have a rivet on the opposite end of our trailer. Okay, so now we want this rivet to fall. We want this rivet to fall in the center of each one of these ribs. So we have to, when we do our array modifier, we have to try to get it in the center. So we're going to add that array modifier. We click on it, and we'll hit add modifier, and then we want the array. And then we will make that 0. Okay, so now it's working right in the Z direction for the sphere. So we'll keep going down until it's about in the center of our ridge. Now you may have to tweak this a little bit because we got to go all the way down the trailer. So we'll just start adding all the rivets. You can already see they're not quite right. So this one is landing on, so we're going to just spread it out a little bit. And now you're close, but you still see that it's getting off. So what we need to do, we just need to adjust this a little bit. So minus 5.2. Nope, that's too much. All right, so let's make this minus 5.545. Minus 5.545. Minus 5.55. That's 5.60. Minus 5. Zero. Minus 5. I'm trying to think, and I can't talk when I think. It's like I can't talk and chew bubble gum. I can't think and talk at the same time. So minus 5.5, and let's try 40. Let's try 530 minus 5.530. All right, let's try minus 5.500. Let's try that. All right, so we're getting closer. So minus 5.490 minus 5.490. 490. Let's just try 80. Or 8. And we are getting close now, so -5. Let's try 70. -5.70. Oops. -5.470. There we go. All right, so that's pretty close. So we're kind of right in the center. So we'll just keep our count going down and make sure that they stay in the center of our ridges. All right, and so it's still just a little bit off. So -5.465. -5.465. No, I need to go forward. Minus. This is the hard part, but it's just because we're dealing with so many rivets. So -5.460. Wrong direction. 465. All right, 467. 470. 480. 9. All right, so I think that's pretty close. So all the rivets are pretty close to the center. All right, now before we go, and it should be the same on this side, which it is. All right, so now we're going to just run these down the rivets just ever so often down the side of the trailer. So before we do anything, while we're in object mode, we need to apply this array. So hit the down arrow and we'll apply it. Okay, so now while it's applied, we want to add another array modifier because now we're going to go in the Y direction. So so these are pretty far apart. So we're just going to start out with let's just start out with 20. All right, so we need to go into the opposite direction. So it needs to be a minus, so -30. All right, so now we have a -30. And the spacing's entirely up to you how you want the spacing. That doesn't look too bad, so we can just keep adding these down the side of the trailer. All right, so I think we got one more than what we need, so let's make it 29. And then we're going to move it so we can center it. So we go G, we move it down the Y direction. There. All right, so now if you're happy with it, you can just apply that array. And now you have all your rivets. All right, so once you get the spacing on that first row done, the rest of it is pretty easy. But we still don't have the materials applied to it. So we'll select it and we'll go to the materials. And we want to apply that same material that's on our body. And we're probably going to have the same problem. Notice that these look a little funny, a little dark in color. We're also missing the color, so we're going to add the vertex colors to active. And we want to change that to UV0. So now our materials, good. So now our materials is done. So now we've modified this reefer body to have the horizontal ridges and the rivets. And like I said, you can do this to suit. You can make the rivets larger, smaller, the ridges larger, smaller. You can change the number of them. You can do whatever you want. It's your trailer. So to me, that looks pretty good. And like I said, I couldn't find a whole lot of pictures of what exactly the chrome body trailer looks like, but I think that's pretty close to what I see in the game. So let's see what it looks like when we select some of the other parts. Oh, we still have to apply this mirror modifier. So let's select the rivet and we'll go back to our modifier. Remember, you got to be in object mode in order to apply it. So hit the down arrow and apply. And now you've applied the modifier. Now you notice that these two parts are outside your root object of this box. So we have to move these inside the root object. And how you do that, you just select them both. And then you move to the root object. And while you're hovering over the root object, you hit shift and let go at the same time. And it places both those items under your root. And once they're in the root, then we can assign parts to it. So remember, this is a Chrome box. So if we select it, and here we have the sphere. We come here to this orange box, and under our parts, we have this Chrome box. So we select it, and then we hit assign. So now all those rivets are assigned to Chrome box. And now we have to assign the ridges. So we hit cylinder, we come down to Chrome box, select it, and hit assign. Alright, so now if we click on Chrome box, our rivets and our ridges show up. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now there's a few other things I want to do. If we go to default, we turn on everything for default, and we go to SCS tools and we start hiding everything. And let's see, we need to hide one of these boxes. Okay, so we have this trim right here. That's just kind of a metal trim, and I think it would just look much better if this was chrome. Uh, but what I want to do, when I put this inside the game, I want to make this to where I can select this as an option. So I can make this chrome if I wanted a painted box on it, or I can make this painted if I wanted a chrome box, or I can make it chrome with a chrome box, or chrome with a painted box. I want to be able to choose. So if you click on the trim, and in order to make this an optional accessory, uh, you have to uh, create a you have to make it in a root object. And remember, when you make a root object, the root object always comes in where a cursor is, and I don't want the cursor to be on the ground when I'm in the garage. So if you hit shift and right click, you can move this cursor anywhere you want. So I'm going to move the cursor right along the trim. So when you go into the garage area, the target spot is going to be right here along the trim. So to make that a root object, you find the trim piece that highlighted, and it is highlighted, and then you go up to this SCS tools and you hit add, and you want to add a root object. So now the new root object came in right where your cursor is, and then you have a new game object with the trim piece inside that game object. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rename this uh, trim paint PNT. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate, because I want to have a chrome piece, I want to duplicate that. So I hit Shift D to duplicate it. And I can move it around, but just hit right click and it puts it back where it is. All right, so here's our duplicate piece, and now we need to make that into its own root object, but we want to keep that spot in the same place. So we'll go back up to SCS Tools, and we hit Add Root Object. So now we have another root object, and I'm going to call this Trim Chrome. So now I have a root object, which is the box, and then I have two separate root objects which will become accessory options for this one particular trailer. And I'm going to go ahead and hide that, because I'm going to make this piece a chrome piece. So remember how we started out changing materials. We go to the materials tab and we look at what's involved in this material. So you have for your base, you have what's called tileable, but we're going to use a chrome base. but what I'm most interested in is this end map and what layer is it on. So the end map is on UV layer 1, and the UV map says steel metal end. So you can write that down, or if you got a good memory, which I don't, I'm going to write it down. Steel metal end. All right, so once that, and it's on UV1, so I'm going to write it down as UV1. And then I'm just going to delete that layer. So as soon as you delete the layer, the rivets and everything disappear because that's on the end map. And I'm going to keep it on the end map. I'm not going to do it like I did the sides, simply because uh, it would be a little bit more tedious because you're doing a trim. But by all means, if you've got plenty of time on your hands and you want to put each individual rivets on here, uh, you know that you won't get no argument from me. But for the purpose of my mod, I'm just going to use the rivets that are on the end map. So I'm going to select the same material that's on this box trailer again, and so I'm going to set matte body, and I'm going to select this chrome. And you notice when I selected the chrome that it's a smooth chrome, and that looks okay. But I want the rivets on there. But there's a problem because the end maps are different. The end map for this trim is a steel metal dash N, where the end map for this box was reefer. But I don't think we used the end map for the reefer. But if we put it on this trim, it's going to show up on the side of the reefer. And we don't want that to happen. Uh, so if you look here, and you got to be real careful with this, you got 6 parts that are sharing this one particular material. So anything that you make, any changes that you make to one material will affect all 6 of them, all 6 pieces. So as long as your material textures are the same, it's really not that big of a deal. But as soon as your textures change, then you got to have these on separate materials. So the way to do that, you just click on this 6, and once you click on the 6, it has that dot 002, 003. But anyway, it creates a new texture for each material. So now I can modify this trim all I want, and it will not affect the body of this trailer. So I scroll down to the material tabs. All right, and I have the base and I have the reflection, but I have no end map. So I come up here and I just click this end map on its own UV layer. And then remember that was on UV layer 1. So we'll select UV layer 1. And then we'll go to where our SCS box textures are. And we'll just type in steel. And remember it was steel metal N. So I'll select that. And now I have all my rivets back. And like I said, I think that looks pretty good. Doesn't take a lot of resources like the trailer body did. Okay, we're still not quite done yet, because even though we had the chrome, we also made a paint. So here is our paint trim, but it doesn't have a paint texture on it. So we need to delete. Let me see what. All right, so that's just chrome. Whoops. So we have tileable. When we change materials, we're going to get rid of this occlusion, so I'm not really worried about that, but I do need this end map. And so it's going to be the same steel metal in on UV1. This base, I'm going to use a color base. Let's click on here. Usually there's a color texture, so this is the color. So when I change that to a paint texture, I'm just going to select that color. So I need to delete that material, and I'm going to call this new material matte trim PNT paint. All right, now on my shaders, I just click this box where my shader is, and you want the truck paint shader. So select truck paint. And remember, uh, there's a few things that you can do. The airbrush, you have a color mask option, uh, and you have this UV map option. We're going to need a UV map option. So UV map is normally on 2 for a paint shader. UV map is on 2, UV1 is for your skin, and UV0 is for your base. So we'll just go UV0, UV1, and then we need to create UV2. So we hit the plus to add a new UV map, and we'll call this UV2. All right, so then we'll add the UV2 there. And then remember we had that color. So we'll scroll down to find the color, use that for our base. So now we have the color, and then we want the end map. So we click on that, and we type in the steel metal in. Whoops, I didn't select it. It's got to turn blue. There we go. All right, so you see your rivets are not good. So let's take that back to UV1. Let's see if UV1. Okay, so our rivets are on UV1. So our skin and our rivet will be on UV1. So, all right. All right, so that looks good. All right, so one last thing before we go. Now that we have our two trim options, these will never work inside the game because we don't have a model locator for these trim pieces. So we have to add a model locator, and you really needs to be on the chassis. So I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened to my chassis. So I should have a chassis root object, and I should have a box. But I don't see my chassis root object. I don't know. Well, I'll have to fix that. So it's really no problem. Delete I'll just delete the parts of the chassis. Let me because your model locator should go onto your chassis. So I'm going to go back into the base, trailer on SCS box, chassis. And like I said, I'm not really sure. We had the chassis 53 Ford. Okay, so the chassis came in where I had the cursor, so I need to change that cursor. Change that cursor to world origin. And then we'll find our chassis right here. And we'll change that root. Shift S, selection of cursor. Alright, well I done messed this up. Okay, so somehow or another I've got on the wrong model. Don't know how I did that, but I've got the box 48 model, which I think this is an AI model. Uh, but what I'm going to show you is the same when you're working with the trailer owned model. I just got to put the right chassis on here. So I got the 53 foot chassis, and that's why it's not matching up because I got the 48 foot box. All right, so this is the AI box 48. What I did, I just started on the wrong model. I got a bunch of models in the files, and I thought I picked the right one. I picked the wrong one. So that's on me. But all the steps and everything that I've showed you so far is exactly identical to what you would do to the other model that we were working on. Nothing's different. Uh, the and that's why the chassis was missing because it was an AI model. On the AI model, it's all combined into one unit. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to just delete this chassis, and I will just import in the right ones. So file, import. Like I said, it's really not that big of a deal. So we want the 48 front. All right, and we'll do the visibility. Yeah, between the AI and the trailer on model that we built, they look identical to each other, so I thought I had the right model. So let me hide this box again. So that's the wrong box. Come on. There we go. Okay, so remember we made those trim pieces. So we got to get that cursor back to where this root object is. So we just click on the root object and we hit Shift S, and we want to move where it says cursor to selected. We want to move that cursor back to where our root object is, because remember, that's where our target spot is. So that's where we want the model locator to be. So the model locator and the root object have to be in the same spot. So in order to create a model locator, you go to the chassis and you just select the chassis, and then you come back up to SES tools and you hit add, and then there's a tab called model locator. So now we have added a model locator to where that cursor was, and it shows up as ML. And then what you want to do, you want to rename that model locator something similar that you can recognize. So on that model locator, we're just going to call it trim, because we only need one. We just need one for the chrome and one for the paint. So we don't have to make two model locators. So uh, when we export our chassis and we make all our def files, when we get to the game, this trim will show up right here where this cursor is, and that's where your spot will be. So you select the spot, and then you just select whether you want the chrome trim or the paint trim, and that's how you add a model locator. All right, so I think this video is long enough, but I do want to give you an assignment. This front wall on the trailer that you have, I want you to make this front wall chrome. I want you to make uh, two accessory pieces. Take this front wall out of your body and make two accessories, and make one paint and one chrome. And if you have any problems doing that, just write your question down on Discord. I'm sorry this took 3 times to get this right, and I'm sorry for all the mess ups that I had. Uh, Modeling is difficult, and it's hard to talk and think at the same time. I still don't know why the ridges didn't go in the Z direction, but I'm glad we got those figured out. The rivets worked right. Uh, but anyway, we got what we set out to accomplish. But you're going down into the rabbit hole now, so everything's going to get just a little bit more difficult, a little bit more difficult. But I need you to get in Blender and keep doing your models, and I need you to practice changing the materials on this. So until I get my next video out, what I want you to do is take this front wall and make an accessory like we did this trim, and make it one paint accessory and one chrome accessory. And I guess that'll conclude this lesson for tonight. Thank you.